Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube live stream today, and I'm going to talk about the most important point. And what is that particular point? Today we are going to discuss about some tips and tricks to improve your fluency. When it comes to your fluency at the time, people often ask me this particular thing. So how do I improve my fluency? Well, let me tell you a few things before going ahead with the concept of fluency. Right? Most of the people ask me that, sir, I'm here to improve my fluency only. Don't tell me anything else. But I want to be a fluent speaker. You must be thinking the same thing right now at this particular moment. But I'll tell you a few things here. Let's compare a few of these things in terms of improving your native language. If you just take your example, when you were just 2 to 3 years old at that time, you were confident enough to speak your native language. And you were fluent enough to speak your native language as well. There was no issue with that particular thing. But the most important fact is, you have been taking feedback from so many people till this particular moment. If you just make any kind of mistakes or any kind of thing whenever you are just discussing with your parents, with your family members, or with your friends or your colleagues, when it comes to your native language, you get corrected by them each and every time. And this happened every time in your life, and that's how you become fluent in your native language. Now, if you just ask me, sir, how can I be fluent in terms of English as well? Well, if you just tell me this thing honestly, did you really try to improve your fluency, or did you really try to give a better time to practice every single day in terms of communicating with people specifically in English? Well, most of the people, they were not able to follow this particular thing. And for that particular stuff, I want to give complete clarity in terms of improving your level of fluency. Now, most of the time what people ask, if they are understanding few kind of things, I'll tell you here itself is that when they try to understand multiple things, I'll tell you few things here which will help you to structure your thought process. It will also help you to organize the content that you use when you interact with people in English. You will be able to understand how to use pauses when it comes to speaking with people. And I will also help you how you can just improve your communication skills if you just work on few of the factors today. Now let's go ahead and understand few of these things here. And let me welcome all the people once again to this amazing session to work on your fluency with some of the tips and tricks that I want to share today. Now, first thing is nothing but don't rush to speak. When it comes to speaking English at that time, most of the people, they believe that if someone is asking something, if they do not speak instantly, if they do not give that instant reply, what will happen? They think about this particular thing that they will not seem confident. But the fact is that if you just try to stay calm and if you just listen to people carefully, and then if you respond to them, it will be easier for you to get control on your rate of speech and your thought process as well. This is the most important thing. Don't respond or don't rush to people immediately. Try to understand the situation first and then try to respond to people. This is the most important thing that you need to understand. I'll give you one example also. Suppose if you are just interacting with some of the colleagues and your boss comes and your boss is asking you something that, could you please tell me about the report that you generated yesterday? Now, as the boss has asked you something, you are now in a position to respond as soon as possible, as quickly as you can. And in that case, you tend to make certain mistakes. So instead of just rushing, instead of just giving instant reply, what I would recommend is try to just understand and respond by taking certain time and just try to follow that. Yes, sir, I worked on the report. It is already generated and I will definitely share the report with you in a couple of minutes. It's so simple to understand. If you understand the situation and if you try to respond with proper time, you will be in a position to just respond to people in a better way. Remember this particular thing. Second thing I would tell you here itself is that when you try to interact with people, try to focus on your tenses, helping verbs. Most of the time, you must have seen certain kinds of people. They speak with different people and they do not really focus on the grammatical construction. And here I will tell you some things in terms of understanding the difference between casual communication and formal communication. Now, when you learned your native language, you just learn through listening and observation. When you just listen to multiple people, when you keep observing people, what happened with your mind? Your mind constantly took feedback and your mind worked on several sentences which automatically got registered in your mind. And that's why you were able to speak your native language without any kind of grammar. But when you went to school at that time, you had to learn how to read and how to write. For that purpose, you started learning alphabets and all other things. And that's how you educate yourself to read properly and to write properly. That's the beauty of understanding some kind of education that you need to check. That is the importance of education, right? Now, when it came to English at that time, there were few things that you knew well. And now also, when people ask me about the vocabulary issue, I'll tell you few things here. You know lots of words. Even I would say, you know enough words to communicate effectively with people. But the fact is, you are still facing difficulties in terms of using the same set of vocabulary to make proper sentences and use them whenever you want to speak in any situation or whenever you want to write in any situation. Let it be any kind of mail or let it be any kind of message that you want to send to someone. Isn't it the same thing that I'm coming up with? Yes, it is. Now, what I would suggest is if you take care of your tenses, if you understand that, yes, I need to use this kind of tenses whenever I interact with different people in different situations, you will be in a position to train your mind to recall the same things. And remember, when you practice in this particular way, all these sentences get registered in your mind automatically. You will not get that much time that now I learned this particular statement, I will register in my mind, I will memorize this. Not like that. Your mind is so smart. Your brain works so smartly. It works in such a way that you get that constant feedback automatically. You just need to develop some habits. And it's like if you just consider the example of a child. If you just teach that particular child that this is the correct way to follow this thing, try to use the same kind of way. The child will try this thing. There may be a chance that there will be some kind of mistake. But if you just tell that particular child to just follow that thing in the correct way, one day the same child will be in a position to use that particular language or any other thing in the correct way. This is the most important thing that you need to understand. Apart from this particular thing, when you try to understand any situation according to proper tenses, you need to focus on helping verbs. I told you some things that when we try to understand the basic statement pattern, you need to train your mind that we know that the subject is already there in your mind. When you start the conversation and when you talk about yourself, it starts with I. And when you interact with people, you just use pronoun you. So subject is clear in your mind. Most of the time, people try to hesitate. People try to speak, but they hesitate. What is the reason behind it? The simple reason is nothing but they want to convey their thoughts, but they are not able to understand the flow of their thoughts from their native language, how they need to just use those particular thoughts in English. Now you must be thinking, sir, for that purpose, we use translation. Well, translation will work in the beginning, right? And if you want to get rid of this translation, you seriously need to focus on getting clarity of using some sentences in the different situations wherever you need. Get these things tracked. Make sure that you track all those things and you get clarity of the same kind of thing. So first thing is nothing but do not rush or just try to respond quickly. Try to understand the situation and then just respond people. Second thing, focus on tenses according to the situation and then try to respond people so that you will be in a position to speak confidently, because you need to focus on formation of the sentence, understand the meaning, and then speak or then write wherever you want to follow, right? Now, third one, take pauses whenever you just need to speak. Now, this is the advanced level kind of thing that I'm telling you in terms of communicating. Now, if I ask you about your communication skills or about your ability to interact with people for your native language. Now, when it comes to your native language at that time, what happens? You speak with people confidently. There is no issue in that case because you already have that habit of interacting with people and you are confident enough. But when it comes to English at that time, you are not that much confident enough. So ultimately, your communication skills are good. There is no issue with your communication skills. But the problem is with your language skills. You are facing the issue with language barrier. And what do I mean by language barrier? You may have problem with poor sentence construction. You are not able to construct sentences immediately whenever you need. Another point I would suggest here itself is that when you try to just work on understanding your vocabulary, you are not able to use the same words to make proper sentence. And for that purpose, you just need to focus on some grammatical concepts in your life. And to cover those simple grammatical concepts, you can check the link in the description of this particular session. And you can join this short-term course with 300 rupees of the discount that I'm exclusively giving all the people, those who are attending my YouTube live stream. And you will get lots of clarity if you just attend those 10 sessions. And in those 10 sessions, I have given lots of clarity in terms of working on the fundamental rules of English grammar. If you improve your functional grammar, it will be easier for you to focus on getting clarity of the same kind of thing, right? Now, let's try to understand how you can take pauses when it comes to English. Right? If you just observe me right now, you can just apply these particular concepts. Whatever the tips that I'm telling you, you can quickly apply these concepts right here in this particular session. Now, when you try to take pauses at that time, you automatically control your thought process. The most important thing. After this particular thing, when you try to understand that, yes, now I'm able to understand the situation, I need to respond people by understanding that thing. And make sure that there are two types of things that we follow. People use short pauses and people also use longer pauses. Now, when to use short pause and when to use long pause? I'm sure that you must be aware about punctuation marks. We use comma, we use semicolon, and we use full stop. So when you just try to explain certain things, suppose you are explaining the chain of certain things, right? Whenever you are explaining these things at that time, you take specific pauses. I'll tell you certain things here where you need to focus on understanding your writing skills, your speaking skills, your communication skills, and your public speaking skills. Now, I told you few things here. I told you few skills. And whenever I told you these things at that time, I took short pauses. Right? When we write something, we automatically use commas. But when it comes to speaking at that time, we can use the same concept of punctuations and we can use those short pauses in order to make sure that you will be fluent enough while interacting with people without taking any kind of extra kind of pause or any kind of feelers or something like that. Most of the time what people use feelers like something like that. Instead of that particular thing, what I will highly suggest you, instead of using those particular feelers, I will recommend you to use pauses. It will not feel that you are just thinking for a second, for millisecond or a microsecond. Right? So make sure that you take the short pauses in such a way that you look fluent in terms of communication, right? In terms of interacting with people. Apart from this particular thing, when it comes to long pauses at that time, focus on understanding few things. You are just explaining some kind of thing, right? And you took a long pause and then you are connecting with something important. This is how you do and how you follow this thing. I'll give you one example here. Just listen to me how I'm using long pauses here. Every single time, whenever you try to understand the construction of different sentences in your life, you need to focus on getting clarity of the most useful tenses that you want to use in your life. Because when you try to understand the same thing, you get clarity of structuring your thought process. Now, are you able to understand? The first two sentences, I use for short pause, and after that, I use long pause. And I started the statement because something like that. This is how you can easily understand when you try to speak with people by taking short pauses and long pauses as well. This is the third tip that I wanted to tell you, right? Now, fourth one is all about understanding structuring your content. Now, most of the people complain and they always tell me, sir, I can speak for 2 to 3 minutes. There is no issue when it comes to speaking for 2 to 3 minutes. But whenever it comes to understanding the same thing for more than 3 minutes, most of the people face difficulties. Let me know if you are facing the same kind of thing. Right? And it happens in certain ways when you try to give a presentation or when you are speaking on a new topic or something like that. Here, I'll tell you how you need to structure your thought process and structure the content as well. Now, make sure that you speak on a specific topic. You try to understand the introduction of that particular topic. What is that topic about? Just talk about that particular thing for a couple of seconds. You just come up with 3 to 4 lines on the basis of that thing. After that, the moment you introduce that particular topic, try to take any kind of example or just use a specific question to people. What if I ask you that this topic is something important in order to develop yourself? Now, the moment you say this particular thing, what happens exactly? You make sure that your audience is thinking about whatever the question that you have asked. And according to that particular thing, once you explain that particular example, you just try to focus on giving some kind of value, and that is the middle content that I'll tell you. Whenever you explain a couple of points about the topic that you have chosen, you can just end that particular topic with proper conclusion. And when you do that particular thing, it looks that you have structured your content in systematic manner. If you focus on structuring your content properly, you will be fluent enough to speak in front of people. There won't be any kind of pause, there won't be any kind of filler, or there won't be any kind of hesitation whenever you will interact with them. Right? Now here in this particular session, the topic that I have chosen today is nothing but 5 things in order to improve your fluency. First, I told you not to rush. I give you a couple of examples. Second thing, I just told you that how you need to take care of different tenses according to situations and how you need to focus on getting clarity of just following some helping verbs. This is the most important thing, right? So I'm just structuring the content in the same way, whatever my mind is telling me, because the thoughts are there, which are coming in my mind. I'm just sharing all those thoughts with you, right? Now, fifth one is nothing but you need to focus on that particular content or whatever the topic that you have. Most of the people, they get diverted from whatever the topic that you have chosen, right? And because of that particular thing, if someone fires a query or if someone raises the question, these people feel that now I did not prepare for this question. How can I answer? Well, I have some amazing tips for this thing as well. You can try this thing for sure whenever you will be attending any kind of meeting or whenever you will be taking any kind of meeting at your workplace. You can definitely follow this particular thing. How you are going to understand this thing, I'll just tell you here. Now, when you try to just respond to people, suppose your boss has told you or anyone from your team has told you that Sachin, now you need to take this meeting. Please continue with the topic and just explain us what are the things here. The moment you get this opportunity to interact with people, what I want you to understand is just try to introduce the people. Well, the topic today is nothing but what are the responsibility of different people in our team in terms of understanding the client responsibility or the requirement from the client. Well, I will ask you, just imagine if there is a person whose name is Rohan and he has asked this particular question. Try to understand that. You can just throw a question to the same person. Well, Rohan, could you please tell me, how was the response of the client last time whenever we were working on the project A? Now, you are in the safe position and you have just thrown a question to the same person. You will be in a position. Think about that and you will get some more. You can just speak for a couple of minutes. That is the most important thing that you can just follow, right? And apart from that particular thing, focus on structuring your ideas in order to present them in a better way. This is the most important thing. So these are the 5 tips that you really need to work on in terms of improving your fluency, and you will be in a position to understand that you will never run out of the content whenever you will speak with people, because now you are structuring the content. Whenever you understand different people at that time, try to focus on the question which is asked by different people. And whenever you get this particular question at that time, try to understand the question and respond to them in the same kind of way. Now, I'll tell you one more extra tip here, and that is nothing but the bonus tip. Whenever you interact with people, make sure that you will ask questions, because until and unless you ask the questions, you will not be in a position to interact with them. This is the most important point. Second point I'll tell you here itself is that we always use 2 types of questions, yes no type question and WH type question. The moment you use yes no type question, you are expected that you will get this particular solution in terms of yes or no. But remember, if someone has asked you this yes no type question, don't just answer this question using the same yes no type words. I would highly recommend you to use these particular words in terms of following certain things to make sure that you are using the complete sentence. For example, are you coming for the meeting tomorrow? Yes, I am definitely attending the meeting tomorrow, whatever it may be. Just try to come up with the complete statement and you will be in a position to make yourself confident enough to interact with people. This is the most important thing that you need to understand. Apart from this particular thing, when you interact with different people, if someone has asked the WH type question, you know that there are certain WH words that we follow. And according to that WH word, try to connect certain sentences according to the same WH question that you have been asked, right? Most of the people, they try to use short answers. Don't use short answers. Try to make a complete statement whenever you interact with someone. And when you do this particular thing at the time, what happens? You engage someone else, whatever the person you have in front of you. You engage people properly and it gives you complete clarity in terms of understanding the same thing. That's the brilliant way in order to apply these things in our life. And it will be easier for you to follow the same thing and you will be confident enough to speak with people in multiple ways. Now, finally, to conclude this session, I want to tell you a few things here. When it comes to understanding your native language, you are fluent and confident enough to speak with people because you have been practicing the same language again and again. And you registered enough set of sentences that you can automatically use in the same situations. But when it comes to English at that time, I want you to take care of certain things where you will be in a position to apply the same concepts so that you will look fluent in terms of communicating with different people, right? So educate yourself in terms of making different sentences, and that will be easier for you to understand the concepts that you want to use in your life. And for that purpose, make sure that you will check the description box, not for the 4-week members. Those people who are already the 4-week members, they already have access to the entire content. But if you are the new member and if you haven't joined these particular sessions, I would highly recommend you to check the description box and follow the same things to improve your fluency, and follow the same thing in order to focus on the fundamental rules of English grammar. I hope you like this particular session today, and you will definitely work on these things. Make sure that you follow these things and you will definitely get clarity about understanding the same thing. That's it for the day. I will see you in the next YouTube live stream, and keep communicating with people in terms of improving your fluency. That is the most important thing that you need to work on. By the time, take care of yourself and take care of your family. Keep learning, keep growing.